My name is Abe Goldstien, and my story is Pork Eating Jew. Maybe a year ago, I get an invitation in my mailbox from a neighbor. She's having an open house, and it's not the kind of neighbor I'd be hard pressed to remember her name. You know, the kind of neighbor you wave hi to when you drive by, and on the bottom of the invitation it says, "Don't worry, we'll have kosher food for you." I mean, just because my name is Abe Goldstien doesn't really mean I need or even want kosher food. Right? Or those people, friends of mine that are going to Israel, and they call me very excited and want to know, what should we see in Israel? How the hell should I know what you should see? I've never been to Israel. I have no deep desire to go to Israel. So it begs the question, well, what kind of Jew are you? Now, if someone would have asked me that question when I was 7 or 8 or 13 or maybe even 15 or 16, the answer was pretty simple. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish home in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. We live by most of the 613 laws of the Jewish religion, from keeping kosher, which means having separate dishes for milk and meat, not eating pork, not eating shrimp, not eating catfish, not eating all the great stuff there is to eat. Okay? It meant going to temple 2 times a day, if you could make it. Okay? It meant celebrating the Sabbath from Friday night sundown until Saturday night sundown, where you couldn't use electricity because you couldn't create anything. That's a day God rested. Couldn't drive, couldn't turn on the TV, couldn't turn on the radio, okay? To celebrating the Jewish holidays. And, you know the major holidays. You know Hanukkah maybe. If you're lucky, you know Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. But there's Sukkot, there's Shemini Atzeres, there's Shavuos, there's Tu B'Shvat, there's Shavuos, there's so many holidays. Which was good when I was a kid because I went to public schools. Most Jewish holidays are 2 days, and they're holy days, so you can't, again, you have to avoid doing any work, so then you have to go to temple. So you got off from school for 2 days. Except if the holidays showed up on a weekend, because they're never the same time, year after year. Then that really pissed me off. Man, a weekend, I got to go to temple, all right? So, I would say back then I was an Orthodox Jew. I mean, I even wanted to be a rabbi. I wrote a paper in 8th grade, 4 things I wanted to be when I grew up. One was a rabbi. Came time to go to college. Most of my friends in that neighborhood went to Yeshiva University, Orthodox Jewish school in New York City, known for training rabbis or Torah scholars. And other friends went to colleges in major metropolitan areas on the East Coast, where I grew up, that had large Orthodox Jewish populations. I come to Des Moines, Iowa. Not a great place for an Orthodox Jew with pork tenderloins and stuff like that. So what happened to me? My transition really started in Des Moines, from describing myself as an Orthodox Jew to what kind of Jew am I? And it happened about the first week I was at school. It was the high holy days, where you're supposed to go to temple. And for 17 years I went to temple on the high holidays. Here I am in a new setting, away from my parents, but out of habit. You have to go to temple. So I look in the phone book. The closest temple to Drake University is on Polk Boulevard, Tifereth, Israel. And it's a mile away from campus. I can walk there because you can't drive on the holidays, okay? So I walk there, and I get close to the temple, and I see a police officer directing traffic, which to me was kind of weird. I mean, you can't drive on the Jewish holiday. Why are people being directed to... Well, first of all, why do they even have a parking lot? The synagogues where I grew up didn't have parking lots because you can't drive on the holidays or the Sabbath, so why should we invest in a parking lot? And even if you were going to drive, you would park a couple blocks away so people didn't know you drove on the holidays, okay? That was kind of weird. And then I walk in and there's an organist playing and a choir with a sound system. And well, wait a minute. You can't use electricity on the high holidays or on the Sabbath. What's this all about? And then the rabbi comes out and faces the audience like he's some Vegas act. The synagogues where I grew up in, the rabbi had his back. The only time he turned around was to give a sermon or ask for money. Okay, the rest of the time he had his job to do. He was there to lead the service, not to entertain. And I thought this was weird. And I remember leaving that experience, walking back to campus, think to myself, I'm 1,000 miles away from my folks. I'm not sure I really can live or want to live the way they live, abiding by those 613 laws of the Jewish religion. But I'll tell you what, I can't live this haphazard way of breaking some of those rules to make it convenient. I mean, for me, going into that synagogue, I could have gone into a Hindu, a Sikh church, right? Or whatever. And
Sikh temple.
A Sikh temple. It would have been just as far removed from anything I was comfortable with. And if anyone who knows me knows, if I get involved in something, I do it all. Not doing some of it is not an option, okay? So walking home from campus, I said, okay, there's no way I can live like my parents live. And I'm not sure I really want to anymore. But there's no way I'm gonna be a hypocrite on the way I was raised. So for 35 years, I had nothing to do with the Jewish religion in Des Moines. I didn't step foot into synagogue, temple, shul, whatever you want to call it, okay? And that was it. Well then, one day I owned an ad agency, and the receptionist calls me, Abe, there's someone here to see you. I go, who is it? Well, I think he's a rabbi, right? Because he got beard and long hair and a black coat, and he's selling space in his magazine. Well, first of all, I was a creative director. Why are you calling me? Oh, there's a Jew. Meet our Jew. I mean, I got nothing to do with where we buy space. Anyways, I went up to introduce myself to him, Rabbi Jacobson of the Lubavitch community in Des Moines. And, we strike it off because that's what I grew up with, okay? And I started helping him with his newsletter and stuff like that, okay? He owns a deli, Maccabee's Deli, right? Because he figured, if I open up a synagogue, who's going to come? If I open up a deli, people have to eat, so I'll talk to him then. Nice guy, wonderful person. I'm in the deli one day, and this student from Drake is doing a paper on Judaism. And she asked me, are you Jewish? And I go, yeah. She goes, what kind of Jew are you? What do you mean, what kind of Jew am I? Well, I've done some research. I know there's Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews and Conservative Jews. What kind of Jew are you? Well, I'm like 53 at the time. No one's ever asked me that quite, what kind of Jew are you? And I'm stammering there, well, how do I answer it? I mean, I was raised an Orthodox Jew, but I'm not going to say I'm an Orthodox Jew, because that would be an insult to the rabbi behind the counter. That would be an insult to my parents and grandparents and everyone that came before them. I'm not going to say I'm a conservative or Reform Jew, because to me those are just jack-legged Jews who can't hack the real thing and make up their own rules. And that's not for me. And I'm about to try to figure it out, and Rabbi Jacobson leans over the counter and goes, he's a Goldstien Jew. I go, Yossi. Rabbi Jacobson's first name, Yossi. Yossi, what's a Goldstien Jew? He goes, I need 10 men, a minyan. In the Orthodox Jewish religion, you need 10 men to say certain prayers. I can call you or send you an email and say, I need a minyan to say these prayers. Can you come tomorrow morning? Can you come tomorrow night? So let's say it's a morning. Yeah, no big deal. Then I go there, and I put on the tefillin. These are leather straps that you bind around your arm and your head, and put on a prayer shawl, a tallis, and I daven. I pray with the men there. I can read Hebrew. It's ingrained in my mind from years of Hebrew school. And he says, you come to my house, you put those on, you pray, you know what to do. And then you're probably going to stop at Waveland Cafe for bacon and eggs. Because an Orthodox Jew wouldn't do that. A conservative or Reformed Jew wouldn't know how to put on the leather straps, wouldn't know the order of the prayers, wouldn't even probably be able to read it in Hebrew. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a Goldstien Jew. You've somehow figured out a way to make this all work. As a matter of fact, the funniest thing is, I don't go to his services on the holidays when you're supposed to go. But I'll go when he needs 10 men. And he once questioned me, he goes, I don't understand it, Abe. If I send you an email that I need, we need a minyan, you show up, but you don't come on the holidays. You don't need a minyan on the holidays. There's going to be enough people there. And he looked at me and he goes, that's a Goldstien Jew. So that's what I did. I mean, I've broken up the 613 laws of Judaism. I've probably broken all 870 of them. I've broken laws I didn't even know about. But somehow it was this rabbi that gave me the permission to kind of operate in this realm and be comfortable with it. So I thought I was the only Goldstien Jew there was, right? So my son moves into a house in St. Louis Park in Minneapolis, known as St. Jewish Park, because it was the first kind of suburban area where Jews were allowed to live. And my son really is of no religion per se. There's a synagogue down the street and I'm visiting him. He goes, Dad, there's a synagogue down the street. I wouldn't mind going there just to see what it's all about. I said, that's fine, I'll go there with you. Some Friday night we'll go for the service. And I went there, and afterwards there's a reception and the rabbi sees fresh meat there. And he comes over to me and starts saying, don't talk to me, talk to my son. He lives down the street. And during the conversation, the rabbi says, what kind of Jew were you raised as? My son looks at me with a smile and looks at the rabbi and goes, I'm a Goldstien Jew. So maybe I started a new religion. So the talk begs the question is when in your life have you had to compromise? Are you comfortable with compromising? Whether it's religion, whether it's work, or questions about just adapting to different changes in society and being free. I mean, I was free. I was 1,000 miles away from my home. Well, can you create your own belief system, your own structure? Is that okay? So let's talk about it.